This week is Comedy Week here on YouTube. And in case you haven't heard, I'll put links in the below so you can go and look at it yourself. But all week long, starting today, there's going to be scheduled comedic geniuses here to keep us laughing and entertained. It'll go beyond this week. It'll go into kind of forever because it's YouTube and it's video, and that's why we love YouTube. So instead of coming on here and doing a funny sketch or telling jokes or auto-tuning my video, I've decided to come on here and share a little bit of comedic history with you, so maybe you can go into the rest of the week with a better appreciation of the art of what it takes to make someone else laugh. Well, we start way back, ancient Greece, and of course comedy has existed in some way, shape, or form since the dawn of man, I am sure, because there's always something to laugh at somewhere. But when it comes to performance comedy, we can attribute that specifically to the ancient Greeks, whose most popular kind of theatrical event was political satire, which I must say is still popular today. So the word comedy itself derives from Greek, so you can see that the art form is well ingrained way a long time ago, and it's just come along as we've evolved culturally and as people. So there are all kinds of comedy, whether it be parody, dark humor, satire, irony, screwball. I mean, there's so many different ways that people are amused. And a lot of times, if you're ever on like a website, like a Facebook or anything where there's a profile, often people like to describe themselves as funny, or especially if they're trying to get a date of some sort. You know, I like someone with a good sense of humor, but humor is relative. What's a good sense of humor to me may not be a good sense of humor to you, and there's so many different ways to be funny or to be humorous. So it's kind of always amusing in some way that people say, I want someone with a good sense of humor, because that's such a broad, general statement. But comedy itself, which started out as these, satires, evolved, and, everyone knows what comedy is today as far as movies go, and how different TV shows and movies redefine comedy all the time. Speaking of The Office, which was probably one of my favorite shows of all time, just ended on Thursday, and one of the interviews they had with some of the cast, I forget who the member was, but they said that they hoped that the show helped redefine comedy in a different way. Like, every good show changes comedy, what comedy means in some way. Just a little bit this way, a little bit that way, and it changes so much. And back a long time ago, after the Greeks started it, and it just kind of kept going, different people have always had their different spins on it, on the word comedy itself, and all the kinds of humor. And it used to be defined more or less as a light-hearted story with a happy ending. So not necessarily something funny, but something that's just nice to watch, and it makes you feel good, and it ends well. And that was pretty much the definition for quite a long time, until around the Middle Ages, comedy started to change. Now, of course, the Middle Ages are also synonymous with the Dark Ages, but most people refer to it as the Middle Ages, and this is right before the period of Enlightenment. And so you have a weird sort of period of time. Things aren't super funny in the Middle Ages. But in the Middle Ages, because of how sad things seem to be, you're talking about the plague. People were using bathrooms in open places because there was no bathroom. You could go into a museum and people would just start using it right there on the floor, because things obviously aren't what they are today, but still, it was just a very unsanitary time, and people who were religious believed that you shouldn't be clean, because cleanliness next to godliness didn't come till much later, because it's not in the Bible. So you have people who are just gross, to say the least, for our standards today. But so there wasn't a lot to be funny about. So the definition expanded a little bit from something with a happy ending, but it also included poems with a happy ending. See, originally it was a story with a happy ending, but it was a stage play that had a happy ending. But in the Middle Ages, they incorporated poems into it. So poems with happy endings would be considered comedy. So it pretty much stayed that until, the 20th century, with the advent of movies and TV shows, and that changed. But I want to know from you, what makes you laugh? What kind of humor do you have? What's your favorite type of comedy to watch? I love The Office, as I said, but I also appreciate political satire, as we talked about, and irony. I do like, screwball, goofy type of comedy to an extent. To me, that's more like something I need to be in the mood for. But, I love funny movies. I mean, some people don't. I'm not really big on bathroom humor. That's kind of associated with gender anyway. Sorry. But, people... But it's not necessarily. It's very stereotypical. For me personally, not a huge fan of body humor. But anyway, I want to know what makes you laugh, and will you be watching YouTube's Comedy Week? I hope so, because I think it's going to be really funny. It's actually just started like half an hour ago. So let me know, and just for fun, in the links below, I put a few of my favorite funny YouTube videos. So feel free to share your favorite videos of funniness in the comments below. And I will see you next time. Enjoy YouTube's Comedy Week.